head, the side of the hand, or you can karate chop. You can do one hand at a time. Between the eyebrows, at the bridge of the nose, under the nose, under the lip, underneath the collarbones. Hi, Chelsea. Welcome. Good evening. Glad you're here. And I think that's it. It might also use under the arms, which for women, it's about where the bra line is. Between two ribs, you'll feel a sensitive space. So if you're laying down trying to go into meditation, it's not ideal to be staring at your screen. So I wanted to cover that real quick before we got into things, and I spaced it off again. All right, so upper limit. If any of you have heard of upper limit, go ahead and drop in what you believe it to be or know it to be in the comments. This upper limit energy, I feel like people often refer to it as a glass ceiling as well. It's that point where we are maxing out on our comfort zone, and we're trying to expand and grow, and we're trying to reach the next level, and we're trying to get to that next goal that we have, and we just can't quite break through it on our own. And it's important to understand why that happens. It happens because of our subconscious mind. It happens because of spiritual energy as well. If we think of ourselves as the radio antenna, what we're sending out messages is going to also affect what we attract in. And subconsciously, when we want to stay safe, we're going to send out messages that don't align with our conscious brain or the conscious part of us that is doing the goal setting. And we're just out of alignment, right? Like, this is the magic of mindset alignment, because once we align all of our being, it's easy to draw things into us and create, manifest, move forward. Our upper limit comes from childhood, what we see happening with our parents, all those things that I explained in the very, very beginning, from religious beliefs, teachings of the church, our teachers in school, the people that we spend the majority of our time around, our grandparents, our parents, whatever we're seeing them model for us as normal is then what we're going to pick up and start believing subconsciously to be also our truth. And when we want to grow outside of whatever dynamic we've been raised in, then we'll start bumping up against that glass ceiling, so to speak, that upper limit. In brief, short, concise explanation, we're going to repeat our past, and that is our upper limit. And the brain is actually wired that once we experience something, it is going to anticipate that the same outcome happens again in the future. And because of this, then we create it. And it is so. This is where the mindset work, the subconscious work is so valuable. Meditation, because we can rewire our brains. We can weed out those old programs that don't serve us. We can plant in truer truths and newer beliefs. So we have two approaches. There's actually probably a lot of approaches, but for simplistic means, we're going to say there's two approaches to working with our upper limit energy. And one way is to inch by inch. We're just going to get there. I used to be an inch by incher, or I also classify it dilly-dally. I used to dilly-dally around in my personal growth and in my goal setting, and I would work at it a little bit at a time, which was better than the none at a time where I started. So at least I was tipping my toe in the water and checking out the temperature and seeing what I thought about it. But there is that, for me, it was pride personally. I was going to figure it out on my own. I was going to do it myself. That's a big part of my story with my eating disorder, which is not common for people to recover from addictions without additional support and help. However, the amount of time it took me to figure out recovery and to heal my body was much longer than it needed to be, because I was absolutely committed to going it alone. And so when we go it alone, and I didn't have any of these tools at the time. We need to find really awesome tools to empower ourselves to be able to take some leaps instead of inches if we're able to move forward faster than in inches. Yeah, my one is showing, isn't it, Joni? Like, blaringly loud, especially when I tell stories about my past before I started any personal development work. She was there loud and proud, for sure. Now, the other way, since I am creating just this duality of means of growth, are what we commonly on trend here as quantum leaps. What is a quantum leap? It's these magnificent bounds forward, or what I have heard referred to, and I love this analogy, of pulling that ceiling down and allowing it to become your floor and standing on it, and moving to a whole new level with a whole new ceiling and a whole new expansion and a whole new playground to grow in. And these tools help us create those quantum leaps. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk with you guys just really briefly about is the group work. One of the big things for me that shifted my own personal journey was getting into some groups, getting into some masterminds, getting into some places where when we started doing personal development work, those blinders, and I was like, I love me a good one-on-one session, all the one-on-one sessions, but I started seeing that my peers were recognizing things in themselves that I was not seeing in myself. And so the power of the group work was magical. And if you want to turn this call here this evening into something even more dynamic for you, drop your comments or your thoughts, the ways this is showing up for you, in the comments. It's going to help other people expand. And if other people are brave enough to share as well, it's going to help you expand, because you're going to start seeing some ways where you're bumping up against that upper limit energy, and you may not even be seeing it yet because there's a blinder, because it's not your priority. And man, it feels amazing to drop some of those weights, especially the ones that aren't really getting our attention, and just not have to deal with them anymore simply because someone else brought it to our awareness. So as I talk about how these upper limits are showing up, some examples, if you recognize any of them in your life, feel free to drop them in the comments, please. Or if you see it showing up in a different way, go ahead and give other people the opportunity to grow with you. So money is a great, easy example. Upper limit energy shows up in so many different ways with money. There's so many negative money mindset mistruths that we're raised in, that we believe, that we see in our culture, the scarcity, there's never enough, there's so much of it. So it's an easy target. One of the ways is that you'll get a promotion. So you're starting to get paid more money, but at the end of the month, there isn't any more money in your account because things also start breaking down. I had this happen to me many years ago. I got a promotion in a job. My brakes went out in my car, and my brakes were like $1,500. And I'm like, how does this happen? Like, I was all excited. I'm going to get ahead on some bills and whatever. No, sure wasn't. So that's one way that it can show up. We can completely stop promoting. If you're working in a traditional job, perhaps you have applied for different promotions along the way and you were turned down. Remember, our brain will program, our unconscious mind will program to recreate the things that have happened in the past. So we get turned down one time and we don't process through that. We don't have the tools to move us forward. And then that becomes our story, and we live that story, and we expect to get turned down, and the rejection is just too much. Like, I'd rather try and be told no, but that wasn't always my point of view. I used to hate being told no, so I would shrink and not ask. But we have to show up with that tenacity, that determination, that resiliency to keep trying until we make it. And oftentimes with promotions, if we don't get it a couple times, we'll say, I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have it. And then we stop. That's an upper limit energy. When it comes to, material things, possessions, not frivolous things that are warm and cozy, but hey, maybe those are the things that you want as well. But I was thinking things that really are going to move you forward in life and make things easier for you in whatever way. And you find yourself wanting to make some of these purchases of X, Y, and Z, yet you have 95 reasons to talk yourself out of it. Or things break down again. Or money is just being leached, like, oh, someone needed to borrow some money and I gave it to them and I put their needs ahead of my needs. You know how the story goes. The same thing can happen with finding a coach, a healer, like whatever your jam is, a group, a community, a gym, working out. For me recently, this is one of my upper limit energies. I've really I love kickboxing workouts. I do them at home a lot. And I've really had this nudge during the winter, go get into a kickboxing, MMA, martial arts center. I don't even know what they're called. Dojo? Go get into one of those and get some real lessons. Learn the real form and deal, the real thing. I've got 97 reasons not to, right? That's upper limit energy. We're not going to expand and grow. I'm not going to give myself that self-love, that experience of doing something new, doing something I enjoy, improving my skills at it. I talked about this a little bit already, but the I'll do it myself mentality. Upper limit energy. Whatever it is where we could learn it faster, quicker, easier, if we hire someone for it, if we take the time to research it. YouTube's amazing for all sorts of things these days, but we're like, nope, I'm going to figure it out myself. So approaching retirement and trying to plan what I need to do to be where I'm supposed to be. I have a list of supposed to be's that I'm questioning why and can I get where I want from another perspective. Yeah, so you're about to step into a whole new world, really. Retirement will be a whole new paradigm for you. And as we get closer, inch by inch, there's either that pressure that I have to figure it out all right now because I haven't and I put things off, or we can fall into the trap of I'm just not going to, and then I'm going to kick my retirement date down the road. I saw that happen a lot in previous jobs I worked, where people would talk about their upcoming retirement. I think I'm gonna, and they would never completely commit to it. Sometimes we do just need to look at it from a different perspective. I love your very last sentence about that, because we can get so caught into our regular thinking patterns that really it's just looking at it from a different perception that's going to help us see other options, solutions, things that work better for us, that are going to help us grow into that space faster, whatever that is in that situation. So A Course in Miracles, one of the things they talk about, and I love this because it was something that I always took for granted, but the definition of a miracle is simply seeing something differently, or, as you have beautifully said, perspective. And when we look day to day for these simple little miracles of something as simple as seeing something differently, that truly can be a miracle. It truly is a miracle. And yet we have these incredible tools that allow us to go ahead and shift our mindset and see things grow consciously, expand so easily, so quickly. This meditation is going to be part of that. Okay, and since, of course, Stronger Together is all about relationships, not just the relationship we have with ourselves, but relationships with others, we see the upper limit energy settling into our relationships with other people really, really frequently. Perhaps we have arguments, right? Just tension, friction. Things are too good, and then we're just going to find something to have a problem with. I'll out myself yet again. That was one of my patterns. My significant other completely called me out on it, and he's like, I don't think that really you'd be happy with anything I did right now, today, in this time, in this space. And he wasn't wrong. I didn't see that in myself until he kindly pointed it out to me. And that was one of the ways that I had to grow in or expand beyond my upper limit energy, because my past relationships hadn't been super fantastic. I was used to a lot of conflict. And I was used to a lot of conflict in my life historically. And I was used to a lot of not being content. Also, Joni, talking about my Enneagram 1 showing up, being content is like the end all be all for an Enneagram 1. So it wasn't something that I, personality-wise, was even programmed to be very good at. And so we can also fall into ruts of being dishonest, cheating. All sorts of things can come up in our relationships or friendships. Telling those little white lies that we don't think are going to matter or hurt, and little do we know that the other individual knows that it was a lie, or they feel the energy of that lie, and they know the minute that you say it that there isn't a lot of energy behind it. And even with friendships, we can hit those upper limit energies of we don't want to have too close of connections, especially if we've had a rough go of it in the past, or we're really used to keeping people at arm's length distance. So yes, Shannon, new perspective is so refreshing, and it really is freeing, 1000%. All right, so if you guys have any questions about the upper limit energy, go ahead, drop it in the chat. Otherwise, feel free to settle into however you would like to meditate through this process this evening. And I really want you to focus on these areas that you've identified where you know or feel you're hitting your upper limit energy. I've been working with a couple of people this week with grief, and as they settle into this new chapter of having lost a loved one, they don't feel as though that they can have happiness and joy in their life anymore. And really, that's part of the process of opening up a new chapter, right? In determining what it's going to look like, just simply. What is this new chapter going to look like? Again, going back to an earlier point I made, is we do have the choice of whether or not we suffer. And if we choose to grieve for someone in a way that we can't move forward because we might be not believing that we're honoring them or remembering them, that can be a form of suffering. Not taking a promotion can be a form of suffering. Not stepping forward into a relationship that is really balanced and positive for us can be a form of suffering. All because we've had these experiences before in life and we're recreating them, or because there is ancestral dynamics passed down to us where our ancestors experience this and we get the gift of inheriting that energy. So really quick, as you settle in with this meditation, I'm going to have you take a few deep cleansing breaths. I want to balance everyone's energy systems this evening. Bring you into flow, into coherence. And for your personal intention here, I also want to release all of the ancestral energy that's coming into play, that's creating your upper limit, your pattern to repeat itself, that glass ceiling, not willing to budge, not breaking through it, not able to pull it down and stand on it as your new floor. Take a couple more deep cleansing breaths, and then we're going to move into the meditation. So I want you to feel the breath flowing naturally in and out of your body. And imagine your breath flowing in and out of your heart. Tap gently on the side of your hand and imagine all stress leaving your body. Tap on the top of your head, then on your eyebrow point, the side of the eye, under the eye, under the nose, under the mouth, the collarbone point, under the arm, and the side of the hand. As all the stress and tension now leaves your body. Imagine your breath flowing in and out through your heart, and slow your breathing down to 6 seconds per in-breath and 6 seconds per out-breath. Breathing in 6 seconds and breathing out 6 seconds. Relax your tongue completely on the floor of your mouth and imagine the volume of space inside your feet, inside your hands, inside your whole body. Imagine the volume of space between your eyes and notice how relaxed your tongue is on the floor of your mouth as you breathe through your heart 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. Imagine a huge beam of love and light pouring in through the top of your head. This is the universe's love for you. Life energy pouring in every moment, filling your mind, your body, and your energy field. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. Breathing in 6 seconds. Breathing out 6 seconds. As the flow of the energy of the universe pours in through the top of your head. Imagine that flow energizing all of your body's energy systems, all of your body's energy centers, especially your heart. Notice the color of your heart energy, and now send a beam of that energy to a person or a place that makes you feel wonderful. Enfold that person or place with your heart energy beam and feel all the compassion and love that connects you with that person or place. Tongue relaxed on the floor of your mouth. Big empty space between your eyes. Breathing through your heart in 6 seconds and out 6 seconds. As your heart energy radiates out to connect with every single atom in the universe. Now narrow your heart energy to just one person or place that makes you feel wonderful. And now detach your heart energy beam from that person or place and bring it completely back inside your own body. Affirm now with me, my heart energy feels good. My heart center feels good. And I now allow the sense of well-being in my heart center to permeate my entire mind, my entire body, and my entire energy field. I feel all the gratitude, love, compassion, and joy in my heart and in my energy field. I celebrate all the gratitude, love, compassion, and joy in me, in this version of myself, in this emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual state. I feel compassion for all the versions of me that still suffer, There are parts of my mind that suffer. There are parts of my body that suffer. There are parts of my history and past that suffer. And there are parts of my energy field that suffer. I now send this compassionate energy from my heart center to all those parts of me that suffer. Those parts of me that suffer mistake themselves for reality, when in fact, my reality is as this version of me in bliss, in compassion, in love. I sit now in this positive emotional state, centered in my heart, and I send compassion to all the parts of me that suffer. I send compassion to all the versions of me that suffer. I send compassion back through the timeline of my life to all the parts of me that suffered. I sit now in the part of me that is pure, positive emotion, and I now send compassion to those parts of me that suffer. As my compassion touches those parts of me, it releases their suffering. As the compassion of the universe touches those versions of me, it releases their suffering. The compassion within me resonates with the compassion in the universe. And as this energy touches those versions of me that suffer, it releases their suffering. I now know myself as a version of me beyond suffering. As a version of me filled with love, gratitude, joy, and compassion. And from this version of me, I extend compassion to all the parts of myself that suffer. As I extend my compassion to those parts of myself, their suffering is released. Take a deep breath. Notice the big empty space behind your eyes. Notice the breath flowing in and out through your heart. And as you focus on releasing the suffering self, tap gently on the side of your hand. Affirm now with me, I release the suffering self and I step into my joy. Parts of me are suffering, and as I step into my joy, as I hold those suffering parts in compassion, their suffering is released. Tap on the top of your head, suffering released. Tap with 2 fingers where your eyebrows meets the bridge of your nose, suffering released. Tap on the side of your eye, suffering self-relief. Tap under the pupil of your eye, suffering self-released. Tap under your nose, released. Tap under your lower lip, release. Tap below your collarbone where it meets your breastbone, release. Tap under your arm below your armpit, release. Tap one last time on the side of your hand. I now release the suffering self and I step into compassion, joy, gratitude, and love. Stop tapping. Feel the breath flowing in and out of your heart. And with the next 3 breaths, bring your attention fully into the present moment, into your environment, into the here and now. With the third breath, open your eyes and look around you and notice what time of day it is. Notice the smallest square object in your environment. Notice how good your body feels. Notice the biggest green object in your environment. And give thanks knowing that anytime you choose, you can release the suffering self and move into this version of you that's filled with gratitude, compassion, love, and joy. When you're ready, you can set up, wiggle your toes if you're not fully back present, your hands. Feel free to drop any feedback into the comments. And as we close, I have a journal prompt for you to consider. Now, as suffering is part of the human condition, as they say, struggle doesn't necessarily have to be. And I have been going through a situation, it's been a longer term situation, and it challenged me, it stretched me, I grew, I expanded. I will share more about it in due time. But it was very, very challenging. And I struggled a lot in the beginning. And I got to a point throughout this process in knowing that it was going to be a marathon and not a sprint. And I chose, quite literally I chose, that struggle was no longer going to be a part of the story. Now the situation did not get better, didn't get easier, but somehow it didn't seem so heavy. And my perspective changed, although some days were harder than others. But I didn't struggle, and I didn't allow myself to sit in that energy or that space simply because I had made a decision that the struggle didn't actually serve me. I didn't want sympathy from people. It wasn't something that I was sharing. It was simply a part of my everyday reality, and I was getting nothing from the struggle. So why continue to allow myself to see the world through that lens? So my journal prompt challenge to you is, what would be different in your life? What would look different? What experiences would be different if you made the decision for you today that while perhaps there are points of suffering in your body, physical dis-ease, ailments, whatever that is for you, or within your external life, in your finances, in your job, in your family, in recent deaths, whatever that is in every person's own path. But if through that suffering, I'm continuing to meditate and release that suffering self, but amongst the suffering, if you chose not to struggle, what would be different for you? And if you show up for yourself and make that decision to no longer struggle in whatever situations you're traversing, your perspective will shift. You will have that miracle. You will see things differently. And you will be much more resilient. And while the circumstance might not go away, the difficulty with it will greatly diminish, merely because you're telling your brain, I'm no longer looking at the world from that point of view. I'm going to look at it from this one. So that is everything that I have for you guys this evening. Our next group coaching call is going to be on Monday this month because of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's just around the corner. I'm wishing everyone a wonderful holiday, whether you get to spend it with your family or you're spending it with your truest love of yourself or other people that you choose as your family. However you spend the day, I hope that it is marvelous. Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday, simply from the place of giving thanks and having gratitude. I love the reason behind that part of the reason behind the holiday, and it does truly fill my heart, and the more gratitude we have, the better life gets as well. So I'm wishing you all a very wonderful holiday, and check the events. There's events coming up, crystal sales, all sorts of things. So be sure to check the events in Stronger Together so you don't miss out on anything. And enjoy the rest of your week. And if you're here in Nebraska or wherever you are, if it's cold, I know I had a friend tell me it was going to snow 10 inches today where she's living. Gross. But anyway, stay warm and enjoy the rest of your evening.